Okay, everybody, be very careful what you say. You're being recorded.
Mhm.
No, it's standard stuff, guys. We record all our webinars and publish them online afterwards. I think it's pretty standard.
As well on YouTube and LinkedIn. All right. Well, I think it's safe to kick it off now. Yeah.
Yeah. People keep going. That's the normal way. But a lot of the people that I spoke to just weren't around, so they said they'll look at the recording afterwards and we'll chat.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it goes. Um, yeah.
Welcome everyone to today's webinar. Today we're targeting principles of prioritization. We're excited to have you here as we dive into the key aspects of prioritization and project management, a crucial topic for any business looking to maximize their resources and achieve strategic success. My name is Amanda Suresh Bali, and I'm from Priorii, and I steer wheel business development. And on the call today, we have a couple of our team members, including CEO Des Carey. Today's session, CTO Steffan is the main person behind steer wheeling, and he'll walk us through how these principles come to life in project management. But before Stefan begins, though, can you kindly look at the chat? There's a form, a short form, for you guys to complete before today's session is over with. This will help us better understand your needs and ensure you get the most value from today's session. All right, so
It'll take 20 seconds. Yeah.
yes. Now, without further ado, I'm happy to introduce to you our CTO, Steffan Boodhoo. Steffan, take it away.
Thank you, Amanda. Hi, guys. I'm Stefan. Like Amanda said, um, here to present principles of prioritization. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, you can.
Right. So, who am
Yeah.
I and why am I giving this talk? Well, we've worked with a lot of organizations in the past, and we do a lot of software for them. And one of the problems that keeps coming up over and over is how do you choose the best projects to do, really and truly, right? And I've looked, I've had discussions with these guys, and let's just kind of get into that topic, right? So, what is project prioritization, right? So we have a couple definitions from folks similar to us. Erica from ClickUp focuses on choosing the most important projects based on limited resources and time. Then we have Kate from Smartsheets, who focuses on the importance and urgency of projects, but also does big mention to resourcing. And finally, Lynn talks about choosing projects based on more strategic criteria, right? But my definition is a lot less fancy. Quite simply put, it is the process of choosing the best projects in the order that makes the most amount of sense, right? But
Yeah.
we'll get back to
Best,
that.
best,
So
best, best is subjective, obviously, to each organization,
yeah,
but
I'll
usually it
get to
ties
that.
into the overall strategy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll get back to that. All right. Um, but why is prioritization important? Now that we have some definition, we have another exit from Keith from Smartsheets, and she talks about minimizing time and money spent on less urgent and less important projects. And she also gave a nice statistic about how jarring the difference between the expectations and reality could be when it comes to project management. All right. Moving on to another, this time from Erica at ClickUp, which primarily focuses on how things can fall through the cracks and being efficient and so on and so forth. And one more from Lynn at Team Gantt, who lists a bunch of different compelling reasons and solid examples as to why project prioritization is important. But
well, there's always 100 projects and there's only 20 you can afford. So it's critical and it's essential, isn't it?
yeah, right. But I just want to revisit my definition one more time, right? The process of choosing the best projects in the order that makes the most sense, right? And as you can see here, best is in quotes for a very good reason. What does best mean? Really? What does best mean? It is individual, as with most complex questions, it depends. But I'm not going to leave you with just it depends. I'm going to give you a way to find what best means in most scenarios, right? And that is choosing the projects that yield the greatest expected benefits under your organization's constraints, right? So what do I mean by that? So many benefits you could get from projects, increased revenue, customer retention, reducing organizational risk. And what are some constraints? Well, budgets, timeline, manpower. How do these really, how is this individual? Well, you could have a case where your committee is given a ridiculously large budget to the point where money is of little consideration, but the timeline they have is extremely tight, right? Or you could have the reverse, where you have an extremely tight budget, but the timeline is very, very generous. So, as to why project prioritization is important, it directly ties into one's constraints. You optimize your projects based on the constraints of your particular scenario, right? But how do we actually go about choosing the best projects? Now we kind of have an idea of what it is and why it's important in each scenario. Well, let's look at some established smart people, right? So this is one technique, a weighted scoring model, where you give each criteria a particular weight, right? And you score it accordingly, right? Just to quickly glance over. Here they define for each criteria how to score each thing and whatnot. All right. Very quickly moving on. Another very, very popular, perhaps the most popular, is Gartner's Magic Quadrant. It is mostly known for evaluating vendors, but it is used for project selection as well. In this case, what they do, they really group the criteria into two axes and display them on a quadrant. Each section kind of tells you which things are the best things to do, which things you should completely avoid, which ones you should consider, which ones you could maybe consider. All right. Um,
Yeah,
here,
much more sophisticated way to look at things as opposed to just flat lines where it doesn't jump out what's important. But usually in the quadrant here, the upper right quadrant is the one that you're really
Guys,
after.
as staff continues, be sure to ask any questions if you have any. Thank you. Staff?
yeah. Right. And these are just some other, very popular techniques and the best use cases. CBA for financial prioritization of projects, the Eisenhower for smaller projects and project tasks, even risk reward matrix for very high stakes projects, and value effort is for limited resources. All right. Right. So let's get started with actually doing the entire thing. The first step is really and truly identifying the stakeholders. Who are the people that are going to be scoring, right? These are the people who have the relative experience, the ones who are impacted by the decisions on choosing projects, the ones with the authority to make decisions on projects. These are the people you want to gather and create your committee, right? So this group of people who are actually going to have the most amount of say on which projects to do. And again, you can see the questions you should be asking when it comes to choosing these people on the right-hand side here. All right, so after you've chosen your people, you're gonna use everybody's brain power and come up with the best or the most important considerations and criteria, right? And again, just going back to the definition from before, we want to choose the projects that yield the greatest expected benefits under your organization's constraints. All right, and a couple examples of constraints, again, could be the time or schedule, the cost or budgets, technical ability, manpower, and some of the benefits could be return on investment, efficiency increases, customer retention. So after you've gathered this group of people, you sit down and discuss, okay, what are the main benefits? What are the main constraints of my organization? Kind of list them out here, all right? Once you have that, you guys decided these are the main criteria, what next? Well, you kind of have to have a vision, right? You need to have a vision of what you're going to need to make decisions, right? Um, so here you kind of define your scoring model, right? Um, do you want a quadrant? Do you want just a list of things? Oops, quadrant. Or maybe just a raw list of projects and your scores lead there. Right? Just to cycle through them one more time. So here's where you kind of choose your technique, you define your range. Here's just more like a high level process of, okay, if I want to make decisions, what do I need to see in front of me that empowers me to make those decisions? This is where you kind of decide those things, as well as the common understanding of, okay, we're going to score between this number and this number. 10 means very good, and 1 means very bad, which could be confusing because somebody might score high risk as 10, whereas in your model it should be 1, right? Right. So after you have chosen your technique, chosen your criteria, what you're going to do now is for each criteria, you want to have some sort of metric or logic to score each criteria, right? And this is really and truly divided into two main types. You have hard criteria and fuzzy criteria. Hard criteria is using some property to calculate a score. So for example, budget, right? This is just an example. A score of 1 meaning the worst could mean that the project is over $10 billion. And a score of 10 could mean that the project is under 1 million, right? And a fuzzy criteria relies on the subjectivity of individuals. So you don't really have direct project data to give you the score. It relies on person's subjectivity to say, okay, well, this does feel very risky. Maybe I should give it an 8. Okay, this is very, very low effort. Maybe give it a 10. All right. So it relies more so on the subjectivity of persons. So those are the two types, right? And this is a high level overview. So once more, you get your committee, you decide the criteria and main considerations, you decide on your scoring system, the ranges, what the values mean, you actually go and score. And then the last step is dependent on the technique that was chosen, where you either plug in these things directly and you get your results and make your decisions. Just to show a quick example of something like this, right? This is data from one of our clients, obfuscated, of course, right? And as you can see, they have actually gone through the steps that we talked about. Can't show you the stakeholders, but I could show you the results of what they did, where they have all their criteria, right? They describe it and they describe how they should actually score it, right? In this case, you could see they have grouped the criteria into impact and effort. And that kind of gives you an idea of, let's jump back here, the technique that they're going to be using. So they have divided their criteria into two axes, which most likely means they're going to be using a quadrant, right? So just to give one quick example here, all right? Here you could see that they've scored purple titanium Afghan hound. These scores here, and this is where it ends up, right? This name, in case you're wondering, is the obfuscated name that I choose to replace the project on, right? So all of these dogs and colors are just obfuscations of the actual data, right? But as you can see, it very directly applies. They chose the criteria, they scored it, and they applied it to the method that they chose, which was impact effort matrix here, right?
Yeah,
Now,
just to add to that, Steffan, I think what they discovered when they did a flat method, that if you could just show the quadrant again for a sec,
yeah, so
the top picks, they found that the average between things that were a high effort but a high benefit were the ones that were scoring the best. But they're not really what you're after. What you want is the ones that are the lowest effort and the highest benefit. That does not come through in a flat list. It averages out, and usually the most expensive projects just percolate up to the top. So they chose the quadrant method because in the top left quadrant, which is a bit unusual in their case, usually it's the top right, but that one shows you the ones that give you the most benefit for the least cost, which are the projects we should all be doing. And that's the real big benefit of the quadrant approach that
Yeah.
we ourselves evangelize, which we'll go into in a little bit more detail.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
towards
Right. So as you can see, this is quite good, and it allows you to see in very much detail uh, which projects are great and whatnot and whatnot. But it is kind of cumbersome to be going through each sheet individually, which leads me into this tool, where if I could actually access it, right? This is Priori. Yeah, right. A tool that is close to my heart and soul, right? It allows everything that we kind of just discussed, from curating your criteria to creating your own scoring system and then listing out all these items and having a committee come in and score them individually, right? But the real benefits of this is that you kind of get to see everything all in one place, not just as a listing, but in the matrix as well.
just to be clear, this is our product,
Yeah,
which we have launched over the last year, which is going quite well,
yeah,
and applying, I guess, the conclusions of what Steph just went through, which we think makes it very, very easy to apply a sophisticated quadrant approach very quickly.
yeah. And while static quadrants are quite nice, you know, the software allows you to kind of drill into the best things. It allows you to manage all of these at once, do a bunch of bulk actions. It really does allow a lot of power to the user. One of the most important things, I think, is the ability to do scenario planning, right? So let's just say, for example, I wanted to weight some criteria differently and see, okay, well, maybe timeline isn't 10 times as important as everything else, right? How would that look like? And then I could see how the matrix adjusts. So this tool is not just the last step, but it allows you to kind of go back retroactively and change how your criteria feels. Um, and you could actually go in and see how each individual or committee member looked at each project. So many times we usually have one person that dominates the scoring system, kind of see how they score versus how the average is versus our own AI solution uh, scores. Just to kind of briefly touch on that, jumping all over. Um, we have AI solution that scores your items for you. So it removes a lot of the subjectivity of that big guy at the top when he comes in. Yes, there's a C you have.
No, just to be clear, like here you list all of your projects, that you're going to do for the year or for the quarter or whatever, and you score them. It can be a mixture of people, a committee, or it could be a mixture of people in AI, or it could be a mixture of automated scores, like Steph said. The score could be calculated by the duration, the cost, the ROI, and various other factors. And all of that then translates into what you see in the decision matrix, and the matrix is usually designed such that the upper right hand corner the upper right hand is the ones that you want to actually do, like a magic Gartner magic quadrant. Just to give the very quick background of what this
Yeah,
is, and back to what Stefan was just showing. But it could be completely AI driven. We can actually create the scorecards using AI and score everything using AI. If you want
perhaps I
to,
should give a quick demo of that.
yeah.
So,
But it really takes away the subjectivity of everybody in the organization who's got their favorite ideas if you do it purely AI driven. But it does require a good bit of data input to fully rely on the AI. So usually our customers have a blend of AI driven and user driven, blended together to give a fairly objective view on what projects they should be doing.
Right. So what I've done is I've just given it the type of thing that I'm going to prioritize. In this case, I am a hard-hearted soul software engineer. So I'm going to prioritize my software development tasks, and I describe how I usually prioritize it in plain English. Urgency, how complex it is, how long it takes to develop, how clearly defined features, and its impact to the user. And what I do is I hit generate. It takes in my inputs as well as all the criteria we have, and it generates these matrices here. Now, if I click on it, I could actually see it's chosen criteria for me. It's chosen the axes, titles, as well as the quadrants themselves. So I could generate as much as I want. I could switch between them. And if I don't like, I could keep going. I could also, and this is finished. I could also use one as the basis of my editing and switch between and add and remove things that I like, things that I don't like, etc. Right?
All this could be created manually as well, but the AI one is a lot quicker and
Yeah.
cooler, quite frankly.
Yeah. Right. And just to kind of quickly, I won't go into the details of scoring something, but I'll just show you an example here.
Yeah, we should show how the user scores and the AI scores together. Yeah. So
Right. So do I have one that is fully scored? So, for example, I could go into here and type in my own scores and update them, right? And it reflects, it updates, and it updates the average of all the scores as well. But what I could do is also I could speak to the AI, right? And it will actually ask me questions based on what criteria is present here and what information is missing from the description. And then it scores all the criteria. I'm not sure if we should go into the actual score right now since it takes some time. What do you think, guys?
probably wouldn't want to spend too much more time.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
were you going to do stuff?
Sorry?
What are you going to do?
Just show the actual scoring process, but that might take some time.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll put that into the next session. I think the next
Yeah,
webinar once is going to be deeply into the AI functionality. I think it might
Mhm.
be more important just to show how people score and just the general concept of scoring.
sure.
Like if you just scroll down a little bit, like the flashy guys here are the different you can have different AI personas. You can have an AI sales guy, an AI finance guy, an AI project guy, whichever one you want, you can create it. So you can have different personas in your AI. And of course, then all the human names you see here are actual people in the organization who can score as well. So you can have quite a few inputs here to give you a very good average subjective, or sorry, objective score overall, which
Yeah,
translates back into the matrix and translates into the ones that you should be focusing on, the projects that have the highest impact for the lowest effort.
yeah. Yes, yes. And in
And
the
it could be
decision
not just for
matrix.
projects. Sorry, it could be just on the left-hand side. It could also be used for product management. What products should I launch? What POCs should I pursue as a salesperson? What vendors should I select as a procurement person? What software I should develop as a software developer using my software roadmap? What you could use it to evaluate people as well. There's a lot of different applications of this as well, just outside of projects. Although projects is one of the main ones, which is our main use case for the moment, and which we're talking about today. But just to explain what's happening on the left-hand side.
Yeah. And all the techniques and methodologies actually do apply when evaluating other things as well. Maybe not so much for persons, but choosing vendors, POCs, you kind of go through the same process, maybe to a lesser industrial degree, but it still applies. Okay. Um, that is it from me, guys.
Okay, thank you so much, Steph. Very informative. Let's just leave the floor a bit open. Does anyone have any questions? Additionally, in the chat, there's contact information if anyone needs to reach out to me for further details.
Yeah, I guess we'd really appreciate if you filled in a little questionnaire.
Yes.
It takes you jig time.
Just resending it here.
Yes, thank you, Usha.
And we'll send around the recording as well. We'll post it if anybody wants to go through things again.
Yeah, be sure to follow our LinkedIn page. Priorii.
And if you talk to Amanda, we can set up an individual session with you and some of your colleagues anytime. It's pretty quick, pretty easy.
Yes. All right. See any questions coming in? Okay. Probably stay on a couple of minutes and. All right. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time today.
Guys, thank you all. We'll talk soon.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thank you all.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.